How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Mark Stiles of Stiles Law and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show with Larry running the wheels.
Yeah, Larry running the wheels. You know, your voice can get so deep.
Yeah?
It really does.
Dr. Joe.
Look at that.
Like that?
That's very cool.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have a great voice. As what have people said about us? We have
Faces for radio.
Yeah, great faces for radio.
I wonder if it would make sense.
How low can you go?
How low can you go?
How Joe can you go?
Yeah, not one lesson.
No, not one less than what?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was a Ferris Bueller line for my Gen Xers.
Yeah. No, really, it's great. I mean, and how long have we been doing this now, Mark?
A long time. 2018, maybe.
Wow.
What year is it?
It's 2024. It goes by so fast, doesn't it? I mean, the years just go by, but it's great, right? What was that one guest we had? Remember, he said, "Life." What was it? Life is short, but it's the longest thing you'll do.
Yeah, that's the longest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah, it's a great
That
line.
was a great line. We've had some great guests.
Oh, man, we should.
Are we going to recap some of them right now? Is that what we're doing?
Why not? Why not? Who comes to mind first?
Well, Dr. Gary Chapman last week was pretty special. I hope folks were able to check that out. If not, it is on where all your podcasts can be consumed. And Rob on the morning show reminded me that the website for WATD 95.9 has a link for podcasts where the Dr. Joe Show can also be found.
That's right.
So that's really easy.
Yeah. But Gary Chapman, do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what an honor to have Gary Chapman. And that was thanks to you. I mean, you put that together.
He was really interesting. I'm fascinated by him and his mission and purpose and how he's been able to live it.
Yeah.
And do it and affect so many people. And we've had the head of NAMI here.
Yeah, that's right. Ken Duckworth.
Author of You Are Not Alone.
Yeah. I mean, he is a remarkable human being, not just an incredible psychiatrist, but he just cares. I mean, he really has the right stuff, the message. We've also had Bob DuPont, the first person to run NIDA. And he was, what was his title? He was the drug czar for the United States.
That's right.
I mean, it's mind-blowing.
And then we had John McAfee.
We did a couple of times. John McAfee calling in from we never knew where.
Those were fascinating.
Yeah.
Those were fascinating episodes.
Yeah. And you know, Alex Wally just last week, you know, we're still talking about Narcan and trying to destigmatize Narcan and getting that to. And
how was the second show of the Narcan Drug Story Theater show? That was today, right?
We actually did shows Lincoln Sudbury on Tuesday night, and then for the Massachusetts Environmental Health Association on Wednesday morning. We were the keynote for the whole conference. It was, I think, their 76th anniversary. And these are people from all over Massachusetts who are directly involved in saving the planet, and Massachusetts in particular. These environmental wizards who are running all these different organizations, and they wanted Drug Story Theater to be the keynote. And so our kids did Back to Life, our new Narcan play that Heather wrote. And it was so well received, as always. I mean, these kids are so powerful because they're honest. They're real kids.
It's a superpower, that vulnerability, that transparency, owning it.
Yeah.
Superpower.
Yeah, it is. And you know, we're really honored not only to have those kids, but, you know, my COO, Kathleen Wright, and my executive director, Nicole Colomco, I mean, we have performed for over 50,000 kids now in Massachusetts, and they've been able to distribute our online videos to 200,000 kids throughout Massachusetts. They can have access to it through their schools.
That's amazing. And the impact, you know, we talk about Dr. Gary Chapman, but think about the impact that Drug Story Theater can have on the world if it is placed in front of those vulnerable individuals at the right time.
At the right time.
6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
Yep.
Here it is, peer to peer. Yep. We're going to share with you our story so that you don't do what we did.
Right. The treatment of one becomes the prevention of many, and they talk about the neuroscience. But what's really fun is the talk back between the audience and our kids and the questions that get asked and the answers that they give. It's so honest. And then we do, you know, these sort of audience participation exercises, which are really fun. And one of the things that we do is we say, who's ever sitting closest to you, this is to the audience, who's ever sitting closest to you, just say something nice about them.
That was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you came to see it.
I did. That was really fun. What a great way to loosen up the crowd, too, right?
Yeah.
And it's so effective. Everybody's smiling and laughing, and it's really, really great.
And that's how easy it is to remind someone of their value.
Right.
And that's the I am. The I am is saying, let's do that instead of putting people down, instead of stigmatizing them, instead of saying, you know, you should be doing better. I mean, you had the experience. What was that like? Tell me, you know, what was it like to be in that audience and just to some complete strangers, just saying something nice to them?
It's great. And so that exercise has been done in other conferences, right? So in that arena, it's a great ice breaking, loosening up, you know, let's leave it at the door. Let's do whatever the cliche may be. Let's get into that zone, that comfort zone of, you know, we're not uptight. We're not worrying about what other people think. And within seconds, the energy level completely changes in the entire, wherever it is, your arena, your theater, your classroom, whatever it is. Simply say something nice about somebody. Yeah. Look at them in the eye and say something really nice. And it is very, very effective. And it really makes you sit back and think how easy that is to do.
Yeah. Which implies something about our evolution. You know, our brains are designed for that, or it wouldn't be so easy.
Right.
They're designed to look at somebody and say, you're amazing. And then the other person feels great. And then you feel great. Every time you remind someone of their value, you increase your own value. We have brains that have evolved to do that. And that's oxytocin, right? Not OxyContin, that's oxytocin. That neurohormone of trust and happiness.
And I feel like it's simply an awareness thing where, you know, somebody comes to a situation guarded, you know, concerned about what others might think, and then they come defensive and they're not bringing their true self to the situation. And then the pattern is created, and this is how they're approaching all situations, and they simply don't know what it's like on the other side, how nice it feels to value people and thus feel valuable. And they're convinced what they're doing is right.
And that's their I am.
Right.
That's their perspective. And I would like to understand it rather than potentially judge it the way they may be judging others.
Or be triggered by it or mirror it or...
Mirror it, exactly. I mean, that's the other evolutionary part, right? We have these mirror neurons where we mirror what other people think or feel, which means that we can influence that. And that's why whenever you remind someone of their value, you increase your own value. You're activating something in their brain that then gets mirrored and rebounded to you. I mean, it's the simplest thing. And it was all about value. And you know who I value in particular? Yes, our sponsors. And really, they have helped us throughout all these years. So let's take a listen to the valuable messages of our sponsors. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show.
Hey, folks, thank you for listening to the Dr. Joe Show. We've been investigating whether or not we want to bring sponsors into our podcast. What are your thoughts? Do you know somebody who might be a good partner with the Dr. Joe Show, who may want to align their product or service with the Dr. Joe Show? Think about it.
And we're back with the Dr. Joe Show right here live on WATD 95.9 with our main man, Larry, running the controls. And it ain't easy, folks. He makes it seem easy, but it ain't easy.
It's like an Olympic ice skater.
Yeah.
You know, they make it look so easy, but I mean, this is gold medal material. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Larry.
The ice cracks and then
Yeah.
What do you say?
the ice may crack, but
The ice may crack. Yeah. But we got Grad Night Live coming up.
A
here
lot
on
of
our
things
show, right?
changing for people. Yeah.
What's
I mean, a
going
lot
on?
of milestones for folks, you know, when kids are moving on out of the high school. You know, that's a big deal for families. Sometimes we've got some new empty nesters coming around. But yeah, we're going to be helping out at Grad Night Live for what year is this? This was pre-COVID also, right?
Yeah. Isn't it 5 years, 6 years?
Maybe.
Something?
We're running the karaoke station. So parents, grandparents of seniors, make sure they are ready with their go-to karaoke song.
That's
because we want to see them all get up there on stage and face that fear and grab that mic and let her rip, because it's the last night and they're all together. What a great event that is, by the way.
It
what
really is.
they put together to keep our graduates safe.
Yeah. And they always can use volunteers, folks, especially in the kitchen, you know, because they're serving food until 5 o'clock in the morning. And so if you are interested, you know, you can contact folks through Grad Night Live. I know several people who are going to be helping out there in the kitchen.
Cool.
And it's going to be really fun. And Mark and I, we have so much fun.
We
These
do.
kids, you know, they're a little bit nervous at first, and then they start singing.
Then the oxytocin starts flowing as they start cheering for each other, and it becomes a thing.
It really does. And then, you know, they give us our own room. And so, you know, initially it's kind of, you know, not many people. And then as the night goes on, word gets out and they bring themselves in with a group of kids to cheer each other on. I mean, talk about reminding each other of their value. It is so much fun.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's a steady flow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
folks who think, you know, that I could never stay up all night. Well, you could.
Yeah.
And it's flowing.
Yeah.
And the energy is live.
Yeah.
It's palpable right up till 5.
Absolutely. And this, I mean, I just want people to know this was Mark's idea. I mean, he wrote me into it. He said, let's go do this. How did you come up with that idea?
I don't know that I did. I think Kim Barassa might have said, would you be willing to come and do this?
Really?
Oh, no. You know what? I actually, she had me volunteer. I was, she had me, I said I was Secret Service. So there was 2 special needs kids graduating, and I was their support, which was so funny. I was like Secret Service. I mean, these guys were heroes, high fives everywhere. And then the next year she's like, so what are you going to do this year? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll do whatever you want. And I forget it doesn't matter whose idea it was, right? It was, but it was hatched.
I just want people to know it was not my idea.
It was either Kim or mine. I forget. It was a combination that we workshopped it together and said this would be a great idea. And it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an immediate hit. I remember they had us outside that first year. I don't think the neighbors loved it.
No, they
which
did
is
not.
why we're now not outside. But I'll never forget the first person that walked up, and I'm like, okay, what are you singing? And he sang Journey a cappella. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And he was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
It was like, okay, I guess we're done for the night, you know? And then we had that kid who came up and thought he was going to be funny. And I want to sing Tequila.
Right.
Like the Pee Wee Herman thing.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But there is another Tequila song. So why don't we cue that up?
Yep.
And I thought he was going to run, and he grabbed the mic and he crushed that.
Crushed
That was
it.
like, it was a popular song a few years ago.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got up and did a number here and there. And,
We did?
yeah.
There hasn't been time the last few years. It's usually during setup.
It's during setup. That's true.
I love to get I love the volunteers listening. I love to get them to do it.
Yes.
We had Coach Dunn
Yes.
came in and absolutely blew the doors off of Guns N' Roses' patients, and I saw in his wife's eyes the awe, like, oh my goodness, my husband can sing.
Yeah.
And he killed it. He
Yeah.
did such a good job. And then, of course, Karen Andrews always willing to grab the mic and sing a song during setup. But that's fun when we're setting up. So
I can still shut down the party.
that's the one. So this kid who was going to be the funny guy to do Tequila, and that's it, grabbed the mic and sang that really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great song.
Amazing. Seen the video?
No,
No.
Watch the video.
really?
Yeah.
Is it going to make me cry?
It may.
Yeah.
It may.
No.
I'm an easy cry. Doesn't take much.
No, but it's so much fun, folks, and really volunteering. There's something very special about volunteering for this particular event, because these are our seniors. These are our kids who we are sending out into the world, and we are celebrating them and saying, we are so proud of you. We want you to have a safe but wonderful night.
Right.
Just together, just being part of this community, because you're going to go out into the world and you're going to be influencing people that you'll never meet. And you have influenced so many people here in Marshfield. We just want to thank each and every one of you, because it's, we've got a great school system. We really do. And I think these kids have so much to offer. It's been wonderful. I mean, we've seen so many of these kids, and so many of them come back to Marshfield to live their lives and continue to contribute to our town. It's an incredible town.
It's a credible region, really. I mean, the South Shore of Boston is an amazing region of the country. Beautiful, wonderful people.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be.
And I tell you, I am so honored to be here, because I'd never heard of Marshfield.
Same.
1978 was when I first was introduced to Marshfield, which is when I met Carol up at a summer camp in upper state New York, Camp Skodak. We happened to both be there at the same time, and we've been
Luck
together.
would have it.
Absolutely. Been together ever since. It's been, it's
Imagine had you not gone to that camp.
I know.
Isn't that weird? Those moments. You think about those pivotal moments in life. Like, what if?
And there is absolutely what if. Did I tell you that story? I think I told the story
Maybe.
years and years later, when my mother, Frances Strand, had passed away. She was an incredible actress, and we're going through her stuff years after she'd passed, and I find these letters that were addressed to me, to my house, when I was living with my mom in Brighton, during my college years. And she had never given them to me. And they were from the casting agents of Jaws 2. And they said, we've seen you on Zoom. We'd love to offer you this role in the movie. Just get in touch with us. And then another letter a few months later. We still want you to be in this movie. Please get in touch with us. My mother never gave me those letters. And if she had, and I had gone to do that movie, and probably then would have done many more, I would probably never have met Carol.
Because it would have filmed while you were at that camp.
Yeah, exactly. I would have been somewhere else.
Well, luckily, it
It's
flopped
amazing.
too. That movie totally flopped, right? So it might have ended your
Because
career.
you weren't in it.
Right, could be that.
It'd been a great box,
That's exactly, that could be exactly what it is, because I wasn't in
It's
it.
the missing element of the movie.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. But anyway, yes, it's amazing how these things happen, and I don't know whether you believe in God or some entity like that, but for
Me or the listener?
Both, right? But things happen, and we may never understand the reason why.
I stopped asking. I stopped saying it's coincidence. You know, when you think of someone and then the phone rings and it's them.
Yes. Doesn't that happen with some frequency?
Yes.
Right? It's wild. It's wild. Mind-blowing.
And
That
it
connection.
happens a lot more when you're open to it.
Yeah.
And I've simply become open to it and stopped saying, wow, that was a coincidence. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It's the universe.
Yep. It's fun being part of this universe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stress going on in the universe right now, at least in this planet. And we have to acknowledge it. It's still part of who we are.
We don't have to like it.
Nope, you don't have to like it, but you got to respect it.
It has its I
Understand
am.
It's got its I am. But we can do something about it. We can't just ignore these things. But, man, is it a challenge. I mean, that is one of the things about the I am, that it is the biggest challenge trying to make sense of some of these things that just hurt other people. And yet it's still part of who we are as human beings. I think we might have spoken about this a week or two ago, that I have this idea that the only way we can really hurt somebody else is to dehumanize them. Right? And that gets back to that idea how easy it is to remind someone of their value, because then we are saying, you're part of my group. I'm part of your tribe. But in order for us to say, no, I'm going to hurt you, we have to be sure that they're not really connected. How do you hurt someone that you're connected to? And that's the thing. Everybody has that potential. But everybody also has that potential to care about somebody else. Because we know that people do. We know that people from this group care about people in their group, and people from this group care about people in their group. And somehow we say, well, it doesn't quite count if it's not my group.
Right.
That's nonsense. It's one group. It's called humanity. We've spoken about this so many times. And yet we still have to remember it.
But it's that tribalism, that primitive tribalism, us and others.
Yes.
We got to stop othering.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And yet it is still part of how we survive. So we can't get rid of it, but we have to be aware of it.
Right.
Because by being aware of it, you can then do something about it. Just like being aware of our sponsors and knowing that they're going to be coming in and talking with us, being aware of time, being aware of that gives us the opportunity to share and remind us of their value again. Let's hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show.
Hey, folks, welcome back. So any thoughts? Do you listen to other podcasts? Do you see how they do the sponsors? Is there a way that they're utilizing sponsors that you enjoy or you don't enjoy? I listen to SmartLess, and I really enjoy how the co-hosts share the voiceover for the product or service. It's really funny for the most part, but it's unique. It's them really endorsing. Does that work? What do you think?
And we're back. We are back with the Dr. Joe Show with Larry on the Wheels of Steel.
Hey,
So it's
Larry.
nice to be back, by the way.
Wow. That was really nice, actually, what you did. For those, nobody can see what Mark just did, but he cupped the mic with his hands and created an echoey sort of...
Tricky.
Very tricky. Yeah.
It's tricky to rock around.
Next show, bring in an old coffee can and try that.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
It's a good effect.
Yeah. And I have to just go back to...
I wonder if the listener is enjoying our show tonight.
I hope so. But I just wanted to go back to when you said unbelievable, because you know what that is, right? That's a beehive with no doors.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. My
It's
kid-
okay. You can't help it.
Well, I really can't. My kid said, "Dad, please don't tell me any more dad jokes. It's punishment." And I said, "I'm so proud of you." You get it? It's
Yes, I
punishment,
do.
yes, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
There is something about it. It goes way back. I mean,
Are you going to join the pun competition this year that we talked about last year?
people really do keep asking me to do it. Andreas Martin, speaking of great guests, Andreas Martin, professor of psychiatry at Yale, child psychiatry, he's been wanting me to do it as well for a long time. I suppose I should.
Is he the one who was doing the cross-country bike ride?
Yes.
Is he doing that again? Or
I don't know who he is, but what about you? You've been doing bike rides. And
I was talking to a woman the other day who's getting ready to do a cross-country ride. I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know if I would enjoy it or not. I think it would be a really cool goal to achieve, though. Could be a bucket list.
Yeah. Carol has always wanted to do that.
To ride or bike across the country?
To ride a bike across the country.
Really?
Yep. Since I've known her. And then she met me, and I squashed so many of her great dreams.
Dream killer. You dream killer.
If she's listening now. Oh, no.
Dream killer.
Yeah. But what about our the partnership? Because you were saying that stuff was going on today at the dog park here in Marshfield.
Yeah, I'm such a big fanboy of public-private partnerships. I talk about it a lot on Feel Good Friday. I talk about it a lot with folks. To me, it's the perfect recipe, the Reese's peanut butter cup, It's the 1 + 1 = 3, the multiplying effect of having your public entity, your town, your municipality, your state, your federal government even is partnering with people, partnered up with the private industry where you have, these innovators, these creatives, these entrepreneurs who want to better their communities, and they understand that the public part of the equation, the officials, the town officials, the voted, the elected, the appointed, the bureaucracy, the decision makers for that municipality, for the state, for the federal government, they don't have the budget to do some of these innovative ideas. And it's you and I met while being on that initial board of the education foundation in our town. And
right.
a lot of towns have these around the South Shore, these education foundations. That's a public-private partnership where you bring in private folks to help bolster, amplify, maximize, add a multiplier effect, whatever cliche you want to throw in there. But you're helping the institution that's delivering the services, yet they don't have the budget or the bandwidth or sometimes the innovation to think, it's not inside the box, it's not outside the box, there is no box,
right,
as one of our other great guests shared. And I use that all the time, Dr. Joe. It's not about being inside or outside the box. There is no box. Like, let's go. And gives people the ability to be creative and think of all of these cool ideas and bring them to their community. And what a lot of the municipalities around the South Shore have adopted is this statute that the state has allowed folks to adopt, which is when you make if the town agrees, like nobody's forced to do this, but if the town adopts the CPA, right, the Community Preservation Act, then what happens is you as a taxpayer, you pay your real estate tax, and a portion of that quarterly bill goes into this fund. And it's a fund that's administered not by the municipal government, but it's administered and distributed by your peers who sit on a board, CPC, Community Preservation Committee. So they're tasked to distribute those funds, very similar to the Education Foundation, where that organization raises a tremendous amount of money through various innovative strategies like really, really good 5Ks or, other creative ways of raising funds. And then they distribute those monies into the public sector,
yep,
where the public couldn't otherwise, budget that or, create that initiative for their curriculum. And another public-private partnership that was brought to formation through this CPC fund, again, different than the Education Foundation, however, the same concept of these partnerships, right? This public and the private are partnering. It's not us versus them. It's we together.
Yeah.
And again, it's that 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And the dog parks that are happening in a lot of the towns, including Marshfield, a lot of them are being funded by these initiatives through the CPC. So the CPC, they're your community preservation committee in town, who they're members of your community. These are residents in your town who have that same passion and then some, because then they're volunteering to be part of that decision-making process and going through the analytics and the matrix of what makes sense. What are we going to invest in? Where are we going to distribute the money? They're tasked with, parks and recreation, open space, affordable housing, different various ways to distribute the money. And then it's almost like a Shark Tank kind of concept where the innovator comes in and says, I got a great idea, and I want you all to allocate a certain amount of money from the fund to support this initiative. And we're going to raise the rest, and the ratio it's always different and every deal is unique. However, a perfect one is, we're going to utilize X amount of funds from the CPC fund that everybody is kicking in, and we're going to match that, whether it's raising those funds from businesses who are local to the community, who want to support that initiative and they want to be aligned with excellence, right? So it's happening and helping that business because they're aligned with something that's really great. And when the public-private partnerships really start to create that traction is when, the communities sees these businesses and they see them in a way that it's, if I'm going to choose a painting company, why wouldn't I support that company that's supporting my community?
Right. So this is the same concept as reminding someone of their value and increasing value, but on a systems level, right? At a community level.
Right.
It doesn't need to be just an individual. I mean, that's exactly what you're describing. The business, private business and the public partnership is saying, we both see each other as valuable.
Yes.
We're gonna push that. And so a business that contributes to that, they're recognized as someone who's more valuable. So they're going to then get more business.
Right.
And I mean, what could be better than that?
Right. And when these innovators create these wonderful initiatives, people want to align with excellence. Two of my companies are both huge supporters of the dog park, and it happens to be my happy place. Chances are, if you go to the dog park in Marshfield, you're going to see me there. I'm there almost every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And sometimes I'm sitting back on the bench writing notes for the Dr. Joe Show or other various things. Yet it is such a peaceful, wonderful place. And it was town-owned land that the town wasn't using. And these innovators who really wanted to have this dog park said this would be a great place. And it's, and they're doing such amazing things. Now they're bringing in solar. Did I tell you that?
No, I didn't know that.
So they're going to be installing solar soon and creating energy for, they don't need it, but they've got this open space that they can create the panels and supply energy to their next door neighbor, the Boys and Girls Club, who needs to raise money to pay for energy. So, it's right there. Let's just push it on over. And now your budget line item is removed of your electric bill. So now they can reallocate those privately raised funds to help better their community. And they don't have to then pay for the electricity that their neighbor, the dog parks, put together and allowed access to. It's really cool when people work together.
It's such a positive ripple effect, isn't it? I mean, and it's so doable, and it's understanding it and knowing that it's available too. There's that awareness factor of, if you have an idea, don't keep it in your head. Right.
Put it on the table. Put it on paper. Like, it's not crazy.
Right.
Like, you can do what's in your head. And, there'll be obstacles. As the Stoics say, the obstacle is the way. Lean into that and, don't accept no. No is most often referred in our world as it's not no, it's not now. And it might not be now, but it's going to be because this is a good idea. And if the folks are passionate and resilient, like Steve Darcy was with this dog park, like it took 10 years.
Yep.
Like as people think it's an overnight success. Like look at the dog park. It's wonderful. But it took a lot of work. And, and then there's, whether that the passion fades for people. However, this is available in your community more than likely. If you have adopted the CPA and there's a community preservation committee, get involved, figure it out. Like there's so many cool things that they've distributed our money towards that wouldn't otherwise be available. It wouldn't otherwise be budgeted. And it's everybody coming together as a community.
And so many people from our community volunteering their time to be on these committees. And folks, you can do that as well.
Right.
You can volunteer your time and move our town, continue to move it forward, And that's what partnership is about. And we have great partners in our sponsors. And that's partnership as well. So with that, let's hear from our partners and we'll take a break. We'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show.
Hey, welcome back. And again, we're super grateful for you listening to the Dr. Joe Show. If you have anyone that you think might be a good sponsor, shoot us an email at drjoepodcast@gmail.com. DRJOE podcast@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts about the show, too. We're wondering, are we talking to the trees or are people really gaining value in this? Please let us know. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of the show.
Ground control to Larry. Ground control to Larry. Major Larry. We're back with the Dr. Joe Show right here in studio at WATD in Marshfield.
Yeah, it is so much fun being in studio, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Joe Rogan said it, right? So it's live versus remote is like the hollow Easter Bunny is to the solid Easter Bunny.
But remote is
very efficient.
It is, but it was a function of COVID. We never were remote. We were in studio every week. Mm-hmm. And guests may have called in remotely, but we were here in studio. Yeah. And then everything changed.
It did.
Everything changed with COVID. It's fascinating because now, I mean, at Riverside, we're taking the initiative. Our new, our president, Victor Grava is taking the initiative to have people in person at least a couple of days a week. That was never a question. It was never a question. You're going to be in person. Of course, you're going to be in person.
Like you have to. You got to go to work.
There's nothing else to do.
Right.
It's just really fascinating. And
I think it's a COVID positive, though. Like I think.
Well, no. COVID positive was never good, right? If you tested positive.
Well, you know what I call it. It was things that came out of COVID that were actually a positive.
A good thing. Okay, fine.
Streaming high school sports. That was a really cool positive that came out of COVID. But remote work is a real positive for a lot of people. It's efficient. It's, do the work when you want to do it. Just get it done. And then all of a sudden there's a less of an overhead for office space, which is not great for commercial real estate. But, that is something that is, settling out and readjusting itself. And, and what is the future of work? When, do people need to go in from 9 to 5 and fight through traffic when it really isn't necessary? Who's calling the shots? Like, why do you have to go in? And, can I be more efficient with my time and have a better balance?
Well, I must admit, I love the commute,
right?
Like from upstairs to downstairs into my office. But what's fascinating is if you're like 2 minutes late for a meeting, you're late.
Right.
People were routinely a couple of minutes. You got to get into the business.
It's rude on a virtual meeting.
It's rude.
You better be there on time.
Right. There is a whole other culture.
On time is late. You got to be there a little early.
Yeah.
Warm up.
And who logs into Teams first is always interesting. Who opens the meeting.
Yeah.
Or you're waiting in the Zoom waiting room.
I don't love Teams, by the way.
No.
It's a little clunky.
Yeah, I'm not a huge, but I can't say that.
That's what their
Zoom,
platform is.
Remember when COVID first started and people were saying, oh, all I can think about is that 1972 show.
Yeah.
Right? Now
that
we're
was
back
pretty
on
funny.
Zoom. That was really funny.
A resurgence of you had both ends of the Zoom.
It was so funny.
Because we definitely leaned into Zoom during COVID, and we had some really wonderful shows during that. And I was talking with someone about that recently, about how we were dialing up live on Facebook, and really, I mean, in those first 2 weeks of, we got to, what was the term? We got to flatten the curve. We have to flatten the curve. So during that period, people were understandably really anxious, and having your training and skill set and being able to amplify that over the airwaves to bring some calm was that felt really good, to be able to help guide that and bring that to people, because that was a really strange time. Those first 2 weeks where it almost felt like an invasion from Mars, you know?
Absolutely. It really did.
Shelter in place.
Yeah. And one of the first truth of the I am, small changes can have big effects. What could be smaller than a virus?
Right.
But look at the effect it had on the entire world, the entire planet. And that's why I really think there was this huge cortisol response, this huge, massive stress response, which really can be reframed saying it means we all want to survive.
Right.
It means we all really do want the same thing, which is to not die, at least not too soon. We were doing great stuff. We weren't just doing weekly shows. Remember, we were doing like a few minutes, here and there, just little.
Well,
clips.
we did we did your 4 R's.
Yeah.
That was really helpful for a lot of people. You want to share those 4 R's again? The strategy. It was an article that Dr. Joe had published in Psychology Today about how to manage anxiety.
Yep. Recognize it. First thing you do is recognize you're anxious. As soon as you recognize it, you've shifted from the anxiety part of your brain, the limbic system, to your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part. That's what recognition is. You recognize it, you rate it between 1 and 10. It's never a 0. Human beings are never a 0 when it comes to anxiety. We're always a low-grade anxiety. We call it vigilance. It's about survival. And rating is also a prefrontal cortical function. So you rate it between 1 and 10. If you think anxiety is never going to go away, what happens to anxiety? What happens? It never goes away.
No.
Because what you think affects what you feel. But when you remember, the third R, remember it always gets less, always, you immediately begin to feel less anxious. Now you've combined both your limbic response and your prefrontal cortex, and then you reflect. What was I thinking that made me anxious to begin with? And for every thought that increases anxiety, you can come up with the opposite one to decrease it. So yes, it's in Psychology Today, a simple technique to manage anxiety. All you need to do is type in my last name, Shrand, S-H-R-A-N-D, and then the words manage anxiety. It pops right up. So many people have looked at it, which is really quite flattering, I must
Well,
admit.
it's a great strategy, right? Because, I utilize that a lot with friends and folks who, are managing anxiety is, rate it. Where are we at? Okay, so if we're at an 8, how do we get you to a 6? Like,
right.
And then you break it down through the 4 R's, and it's typically that reflection point of like, okay, my imagination is torturing me.
Yep.
Because reality is not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I'm glad, it's the word manage your anxiety. It's not coping.
Right.
Right. I don't want people to just cope. It sounds like you're just hanging on. You can manage your life. You can manage your anxiety.
Totally.
And it really works. It's difficult at first because you have automatic thoughts that increase anxiety. You're not even aware that you thought of them. I mean, talking about Larry being an Olympic ice skater, it's the same thing with many people with anxiety. You're like an Olympic ice skater. You practice these thoughts so many times, you're not even aware they're happening. I've said it to so many patients. If there was an event for the person who could make themselves the most anxious, you would win the gold medal.
Right.
And then they can reduce it. Because as soon as you recognize that it's under your control, that you're influencing your own anxiety, that immediately goes, wow. Because anxiety is the flight branch of fight, flight, freeze. It's the idea that I'm facing a predator that I cannot beat. I better get the heck out of here. But it's your thought. How cool is that? So what I will say to people, if you think anxiety is never going to go away, what happens to anxiety? It gets worse. I say, well, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That's how powerful your thinking is. Thinking it will never go away increases your anxiety.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah.
It's so cool, but so painful for the people who are going through that unless they have that awareness. What was it? What triggered it? Wow. Okay. This has happened before.
Yeah.
And the wave will come back down. But let's really reflect on what is that woke me up and I'm staring at the ceiling now.
Right. And with COVID, I mean, your anxiety can sometimes have a real trigger. I mean, it doesn't mean that anxiety is just imaginary. But with COVID, we know there's certain things you can do to not get it and to not transmit it to somebody else. So once you have those tools, I mean, remember those first few weeks, it was scary.
Yeah.
We didn't even really understand how scary it was going to get. I remember Jason and Becca and Galen all happened to be home. Sophie was still in New York. The other two kids happened to be home. And they heard about quarantine. And they got on the ground and they started scooting around going, quarantine, quarantine. I think it was the greatest thing that they didn't need to go to work. And then it was like, nope, you are really in quarantine. We had to, Galen actually, a few weeks into COVID, got in the car, drove down to New York to get Sophie and Brendan. And he didn't get out of the car once. Drove down, came back, brought them back. And we had, I must admit, one of the most wonderful times.
I bet.
For a few weeks.
I bet.
To have everybody there. It was just like, I mean, folks, you may have young kids and enjoy it because when they get older, just like we're talking about Grad Night Live, kids leave home. Mm-hmm. It's a rarity to have everybody in the house at the same time. And it was lovely. So tonight has been lovely too, Mark. As always. Really enjoy it. Larry, thanks so much. And folks.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week here on The Dr. Joe Show. Have a good one.
Did he do it for love or was he just being wild? Who